here are the deep clearance team. My name is Michael. I'm an engineering major.
I'm Josh. I'm a nursing major.
Marshall, intelligence analysis.
Casey, CIS major. Giovanna, biology, pre-med.
So some of our biggest focuses this week were checking out the deployment aspects of the potential for our technology, as well as just trying to make sure that there is currently a 360-degree thermal camera out there right now that we can test and prototype with. So our hypothesis was validated for finding a 360-degree thermal camera. We also spoke with 3 members of the Harrisonburg Fire Department to check one last time to see if this is something that they could see being used in the civilian workforce. And they said that they would want a device like this if it was able to have a chemical sniffer on it. So then our final hypothesis was to check to see how long the deployment time would be, and we estimated 5 to 10 years for deployment. However, that was invalidated because although it will take up, or it can be around 10 years for deployment into the Army as a whole. However, if you're working with special operations, they can try and accelerate the process to get it into the Army in 2 years.
Here we have a few changes to our VPC, dealing with new technology that'll help our product, and a few other gains dealing with deployment. And the main change here is deployment. We're hoping to advance to TR level 7 or something close to that, and look on to FedBiz, trade shows, and other methods of delivery. And then prepare to pitch the idea to the Army and check with Shadow about our solution.
So just a little elaboration. We talked to our sponsors, and basically they kind of showed us how the Army does things. So their TRL level 1 through 3 is very early stages of technology, artificial intelligence, things like that. Their 4 through 6 is the middle-of-the-road technology, getting ready to invest money in it, basically integrating your whole product together. And their TRL 7 through 9 is pretty much close to perfect. That's when the military is going to buy it. So basically where the red line is, we'd say we're right about there, kind of having different prototypes that we want to integrate together. Also, again, Michael said it's a 10-year process, and the biggest goal is you want to get the Army to buy it for at least 20 years. TRL 6 through 7 is where SOCOM will buy it versus the Army. So this week's biggest challenge was, basically our sponsors told us the biggest thing we're going to have to deal with is explaining to the Army why they need this, why they should have to carry the extra payload, even if it's only 2 pounds. Why should they have it, and why do they need it other than special operations, and how it will apply to a greater problem.
So our MVP this week really hasn't changed very much. We still have the same idea of using 2 lead drones with the breadcrumb approach. The only major change that we made was the removal of the headset or VR from our solution. This came after a couple feedback and interviews that we had saying that, especially for special operations units, you don't want to take the soldier out of that combat environment. And anyone who's ever used a headset or VR for long durations of time to what would be for this to look around and actually see what the drone is seeing, it could possibly remove you far enough where it would take you too long to readjust to the combat situation when you take off your glasses, and could actually pose a detriment to how the squad or the team or your battle buddy pair operate. And then we're still thinking of using the tinier drones, the 360 fly cameras, and the thermite charge just in case it falls into enemy hands.
All right, so now I'll evaluate on the battery issue that we've been addressing so much this semester. So when we were speaking with somebody from Regiment military, he was showing us their 2 main battery sources that they use. One's called the Nerve Center Share Pack. It has 3 total ports, and I think it's 150 total watt hours with a built-in power management system. And then they have the Solo Pack, which is just 98 watt hours, and it's essentially just kind of a dumb battery where it just outputs power. So we're currently looking into determining how these could be utilized with our device. So the Solo Pack is approximately 1 pound, and current drone batteries usually are around roughly 3/4 of a pound. So if we were to swap out the batteries, we could obtain a lot more reusable and versatile battery for just a little bit more weight, and then it could hopefully expand the capabilities of our device.
So for moving forward, we are definitely prepared and ready to start designing and prototyping with the knowledge of knowing what sensors we want, the battery sources that we have available, the types of cameras we're looking to use, and our approach in terms of building the UAS or the whole MVP in general. And we also want to decide which deployment method is best suitable based on our project's progress and our beneficiaries and how we want to get it out to the Army. That is LTML. I don't know. I wanted to.
Feedback.
Great job, guys. Feedback, comments?
The removal of the VR set, how does that impact the overall flow? Are you just working off the phone?
So if you want to get back to it, if you,
Maybe the picture might be better.
it essentially won't.
Right, you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it essentially won't, because this is actually all the information that you'd pretty much be getting with the VR headset, other than you have one guy using this and another guy using the headset, and he's monitoring, say, a different feed. So one of like the static cameras on the ground or whatever, and he's looking around. You get all the information there, so it's not as, it doesn't remove the soldier as far from his physical location as that, the whole optical, not illusion.
But you've got problems of glare with light depending on outside conditions though, right?
Well, the nice thing about the ruggedized tablets and stuff that they do have covers and
They're
stuff,
covers.
which do help. So it's the built-in equipment that they have that we didn't really touch on. So.
Second comment, really nice graphics showing the different levels, the TRL levels. Group, take note as like how you can reduce complex information to easily digestible graphics, because as you're moving forward with the final presentations, you're going to have to explain all sorts of technical terms and processes in a very, very digestible format, because you've got a 10 to 12 minute presentation facing you in a couple of weeks. So looking at kind of ways of doing graphics like what you're doing there would be very effective. No acronyms. Like, think about all of that information.
Oh, yeah. I
We're
didn't
looking
think
off
of
of
that.
the TRL, as far as big Army, big military, it's closed. On the outside, that's 10 years is on the outside, 5 to 7 normal acquisition process, that's for everybody. Soft, regular Army, doesn't matter. 10 years means it's gone into full rate initial production. That's fielded, funded, pond, PP and B and E, whatever the rest of those acronyms are, doesn't mean anything to you. But that's the way outside. But it can go a lot quicker than what you think on the big Army side as far as the acquisition process goes. Because the way SOCOM does their what's known as the field deployment release, FNDR process, it actually accelerates the Army's safety confirmation process.
Do you know what he just said?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
SOCOM, we know
Yeah.
SOCOM, it takes only like 2 to 5 years, usually, like when you go through SOCOM.
And that has to do with like the, also like the MRL lining up with the readiness level.
Okay, so MRL, you know what MRL is, right?
Yeah, the manufacturing readiness level.
So MRL and TRL, they work in conjunction with one another. So it depends on where it is on the development, that it's going to line up with that MRL. So if you have a working prototype, it's already at a 6. Automatically. Okay. If you have a working physical prototype, that begins at 6.1, 6.2, 6.3 in that level. And then everything advances above that, they can go to what's known as a milestone B decision authority, which means they're going to fund it, and then they're going to continue to develop it for a milestone C, which means full rate limited rate initial production, or LRIP. And then it'll go through its last 2 years of development for fielding. And that's both on the soft side and on the regular Army side. Okay? Okay.
We're learning a lot, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Don't ask me how I know.
But earlier when you were talking about is that if the Special Operations Forces buy it, it accelerates the ability of the regular Army to adopt it.
Right.
And so that was
The only other thing I'll add,
Use code words, but.
sorry, about class and legality, you can't say prototype, and you're gonna wanna be a little conscientious on this scale. Legally speaking, you're only allowed to leave this class with an MVP, for reasons I don't really understand. But you have to be conscientious of your language in your presentations and how you present it,
So your next steps can be to develop a prototype. That's
after
fine.
the class.
Yeah.
Right,
You can't develop prototypes for the next 4 weeks.
You can develop an MVP.
Outside of the class.
Outside of, okay, like just we can't like have it in
just
class,
Glad we
okay.
made this point.
You can have an MVP,
Okay.
and that's what you call it.
Now we're learning a lot.
All right, we got that.
And you get to decide if it's an MVP or a prototype.
Okay.
So just call it an MVP.
And watch where you put your line. Great job. 1, 2, 3.